On a quiet December morning in 2017, one of Canada's wealthiest and most philanthropic couples, Barry and Honey Sherman, were found dead inside their Toronto mansion. At first glance, it looked like a tragic murder-suicide. But as investigators dug deeper, what they uncovered was a tangled web of money, power, and mystery, one that continues to baffle the public even today. This is the story of Barry and Honey Sherman, a couple whose lives were built on success and generosity, and whose deaths remain one of Canada's most haunting unsolved mysteries.
Tonight, the mystery deepening behind the double homicide of one of the world's richest couples.
Their murder has shaken the political establishment, with many wondering who could have wanted to see them dead and why.
Now, the billionaire founder of Canada's largest drugs firm, Barry Sherman, and his wife Honey have been found dead at their home in Toronto. Police describe the deaths as suspicious, but say they were not being treated as murder.
We've discovered 2 bodies of people inside a home here. The circumstances of their death appear suspicious.
Now to the mysterious death of a billionaire couple found hanging inside their mansion. Police are calling the death of pharmaceutical tycoon Barry Sherman and his wife Honey suspicious, saying both were strangled. ABC's Lindsay Janis here. She's tracking the case. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, George. Friends and family are in shock. The couple, the Shermans, were philanthropists. Their company, Apotex, employs thousands of people in Canada and around the world, making hundreds of generic drugs. Now police want to know who would want them dead.
Barry and Honey Sherman were one of the world's wealthiest couples, worth $3.2 billion, thanks to their pharmaceutical empire.
We started Apotex in 1974, almost 40 years ago.
Known for giving tens of millions of dollars to charitable causes.
Barry Sherman was not your typical millionaire. Born in 1942 in Toronto, Barry lost his father when he was just 10 years old. Despite tragedy early on, he was brilliant, a man driven by intellect and ambition. He earned a PhD in engineering from the University of Toronto and later bought a small pharmaceutical company called Empire Laboratories. From there, Barry built Apotex, one of the largest generic drug manufacturers in the world. His company provided affordable medications not just to Canada, but to people across the globe. Honey Sherman was the perfect counterpart, strong, outspoken, and deeply involved in charity. While Barry focused on business, Honey dedicated her life to philanthropy. Together, they donated tens of millions to hospitals, universities, and religious organizations.
Honey and I have both felt the commitment to do what we could for the community. She does all the community service work. She's been chair of just about everything. And my time is better spent doing what I can to try to earn money so I can write the checks.
Fair and equitable.
They were, by all accounts, admired and respected, though not without controversy. Barry's aggressive business tactics earned him enemies in both corporate and legal circles. He was often sued by competitors and even by family members over inheritance and company shares. Still, to the outside world, Barry and Honey Sherman seemed untouchable. Until the morning of December 15, 2017. It was just before noon when a real estate agent arrived at the Shermans' North York mansion on Old Colony Road. The house had recently been put up for sale for nearly $7 million. The agent was there to show it to potential buyers. As she entered through the front door, everything seemed normal, nothing appeared broken, no signs of forced entry. But when she walked into the basement pool area, what she saw was like something out of a nightmare. Barry and Honey Sherman were both dead, sitting side by the pool. Each was partially suspended by a leather belt looped around a low railing behind them, their bodies in a semi-seated position. Honey was still wearing her winter coat, indicating she had just arrived or hadn't been home long when she died. There were bruises on her face, signs of a struggle. Barry, dressed in his business clothes, had marks on his wrists, suggesting he might have been restrained before death. It was an eerie and deliberate scene, one that didn't fit the chaos of a typical murder or suicide.
We are not currently seeking or looking for an outstanding suspect.
Toronto police initially leaned toward a shocking conclusion, that Barry had killed Honey, then taken his own life. The theory seemed convenient. No sign of forced entry, and Barry's personal and professional life was stressful. But those who knew the Shermans were outraged by the idea. Their children immediately rejected the notion that their father could harm their mother or himself.
On December 15th, 2017, as you know, Barry and Honey Sherman were discovered in the basement of their home in Toronto. Toronto police attended the scene, and before any investigative or inquiries had taken place, they came to the conclusion and announced to the public that there was no sign of forced entry and that they were not currently seeking any suspects. That misguided, indeed unfounded conclusion left the wrong impression that this was a self-inflicted crime, either a suicide or murder-suicide. That comment set the wheels in motion and conveyed a false sense of security to the public and devastation to the Sherman family. Police are required by law to maintain a certain professional standard in their approach to investigations, but in this case, at this stage of the investigation, the manner in which the Toronto Police Service conducted itself fell well below that standard of how a reasonable officer in similar circumstances should have acted. David Chasen, the retired chief forensic pathologist of Ontario, conducted the second autopsy on Wednesday, December 20th, 2017. The 3 homicide investigators present at this press conference today attended at the autopsy and were provided access to photographs of the crime scene. At the conclusion of Dr. Chasen's post-mortem examinations of Barry and Honey Sherman, it became clear that they were both murdered, and the Toronto Police Service should not have drawn any conclusion which suggested self-inflicted injuries.
I'm Constable Carolyn DeClute, and I am here today to introduce Homicide Detective Sergeant Susan Gomes, who will be providing an update on the Barry Sherman and Honey Sherman investigation.
Thank you for all attending this news conference today. At 11:44 a.m. on Friday, December the 15th, 2017, we responded to a 911 call to 50 Old Colony Road. Officers attended the address and located Barry Sherman and Honey Sherman deceased. Post-mortem examinations were conducted at the province's coroner's office forensic pathology unit by a forensic pathologist. The cause of death for both Shermans was ligature neck compression. The manner was undetermined, with the only presented options being double suicide, homicide-suicide, or double homicide. From the outset of this investigation, we have followed the evidence, and we were alive to the issue of an undetermined manner of death. The integrity of every homicide investigation is paramount. Facts guide our focus. Conjecture and speculation have no place. Each of the 3 manners, the options provided to us, were all equally considered as evidence presented itself. As a unit, with the assistance of many other areas of expertise within our service, we have so far spent thousands of hours on this investigation. Our partners include the province's coroner's office forensic pathology unit and many areas of discipline within the Centre of Forensic Sciences. We are in the process of attaining or have executed 20 judicial authorizations and searches. Legal complexities in some executions have been challenging, given the litigious nature of Barry Sherman's businesses, in particular the search and seizure of electronics in Barry Sherman's workspace at Apotex. 2 residential properties belonging to the Shermans have been searched. The primary Sherman residence is a 3-story family dwelling of a size warranting 6 weeks of searching, forensic review, and seizing of evidence. This morning, we returned the residence to the family. To date, close to 150 bulk or packaged items have been seized and are currently being reviewed and forensically analyzed. A total of 127 witness statements have been compiled, and this number continues to grow each day. Neighborhood canvasses have occurred in the area surrounding the Sherman residence. This has included the collection of approximately 4 terabytes of security video from both commercial and residential properties. There are approximately 500 hours in each of these terabytes. And finally, 348 investigative actions have been assigned and are being vigorously pursued. Contact with the immediate Sherman family has been consistent and ongoing. For them, it's been difficult to balance their patience with their frustration with us and our investigation, not unlike any other family who has suffered such a sudden and profound loss. They have been understanding, cooperative, and hopeful that this investigation can give them some answers. What we have come to learn so far in our investigation that I'm willing to confirm with you today is that Honey and Barry Sherman were last seen alive in the evening hours of Wednesday, December the 13th, 2017. Neither of the two had communicated with friends, family, or associates from that time frame until their discovery on Friday, December the 15th. There are no signs of forced entry on all access points to the home. Honey and Barry Sherman were found deceased in the lower level pool area, hanging by belts from a poolside railing in a semi-seated position on the pool deck. They were wearing their clothing. We believe now, through the 6 weeks of work review, we have sufficient evidence to describe this as a double homicide investigation, and that both Honey and Barry Sherman were in fact targeted. We will continue to focus exclusively on evidence with whatever resources are necessary. We ask anyone to come forward with anything they may think is valuable to the investigation, and we, along with the family, are grateful for all those that have done so thus far. Thank you.
The positioning of the bodies didn't align with a murder-suicide. Both had been strangled, not hanged in a traditional way. The belts appeared staged to make it look that way. Further, Honey had clear defensive wounds, meaning she fought her attacker. Barry did not. Investigators theorized that Honey was attacked first, likely near the front of the house, and then dragged to the pool area. Barry was possibly surprised or subdued later, perhaps by someone he knew. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the couple let their killer, or killers, inside willingly. The autopsy confirmed both deaths were due to ligature neck compression. The case was reclassified as a double homicide. The investigation that followed was massive, over 50 officers, hundreds of interviews, and countless hours of security footage reviewed. But the mystery only deepened. Police discovered that the home's internal cameras were off. However, external surveillance in the neighborhood captured a mysterious figure walking near the Shermans' home in the days before their deaths. The figure appeared to move strangely, with an unusual gait, and their identity remains unknown to this day. The Sherman children even hired their own private team of investigators, led by former Toronto homicide detective Tom Klatt. Their independent autopsies confirmed what the family always believed: Barry and Honey were murdered by someone who knew what they were doing. Over the years, several theories have emerged. Some point to business-related enemies. Barry's company, Apotex, was involved in numerous lawsuits, including multi-million-dollar disputes with competitors and government agencies. There were rumors of corporate espionage, patent wars, and even internal betrayals. Others believe it was a targeted hit, possibly orchestrated to look like a staged suicide. A third theory revolves around personal disputes or financial motivations within the family circle. However, no evidence has ever linked the Sherman children to their parents' deaths, and they have consistently cooperated with the investigation. Still, the lack of suspects and the eerie perfection of the crime keep speculation alive. The Sherman mansion was demolished in 2019. Where it once stood, there's now an empty lot, a haunting reminder of the crime that shook Canada's elite. Despite years of work, no arrests have been made. The case remains open, and the family continues to seek justice through private efforts. To this day, the question lingers. Who killed Barry and Honey Sherman, and why?
We are taking some comfort in knowing that you two are together forever, and neither of you had to suffer like we are suffering now. You were like a lock and a key, each pretty useless on your own. But together, you unlocked the whole world for yourselves, and for us, and for so many others. We promise to carry on your legacy of greatness and giving, from now until forever.